What up YouTubers, it's Justice here. Welcome to another video addressing the future of RuneScape and the recent Dragonstone Power to Players poll. Level 138 combat versus 200. As you are well aware by now, in this series I discuss the pros and cons of each side of the argument, with the reasoning behind what I'm considering to vote for. I also strongly encourage you to influence and persuade me otherwise, as there is always the option of changing my vote. This series has also been set up to encourage heated discussions and debates within the comment section. Keeping these comments constructive, however, is of paramount importance. I conclude these videos by addressing the previous video in the series, which in this case is related to the Legacy Combat mode. I will spend longer on this than normal due to the popularity of that topic, and I want to focus on some excellent points which were debated over the past 2 weeks within the comment section of that video. Without further ado, let's kickstart this week's episode. By the way, the combat system voted for will be implemented across both EOC and Legacy platforms within RuneScape 3. I'll start by defining the two very different combat systems. Okay, so firstly I'm going to be using the old combat formula system, and as you can see on screen, this is the old system of how you used to be able to work it out. Looks very complicated, but I'm going to go into it and try and simplify it as much as possible. Obviously the offense, which is highlighted in red, we need to know what that actually means, so I'm going to go over that first with a key to then work out my combat level. So offense equals the highest out of your attack level or plus your strength level. For example, 99 plus 99 in my case equals 198. Or offense is equal to 1.5 times magic level, which in my situation is 99 times 1.5 equals 148.5. Or it's the 1.5 times your range level, which is obviously again for me 148.5. Now you just take the highest out of one of those, which is most likely going to be your attack and strength level. As you can see straight away, the melee combat levels will contribute to the combat formula more so than the magic or range. Now the calculation above will be used within the formula, which will now be shown on screen. Okay, so the combat formula is now shown on screen. The combat level is equal to, in brackets, open brackets, 1.3 times the offense, close brackets, plus defense, plus constitution, plus open brackets prayer divided by 2, close brackets, plus open brackets summoning divided by 2, close brackets divided by 4. Whew, that's a mouthful. Basically, as you can see, just read it on screen. As you can see, it's quite complicated, but I'll now input my combat skills into this calculation and we'll see what we get. So as you can see, once I've obviously figured out the calculation by inputting all of my figures, on screen you will notice all of my figures which I've put in. So for example, 1.3 times 198, the 198 is in relation to the offense calculation, which was my melee, which was my attack plus strength level, plus together. And then obviously you're just following the formula, so you're plussing your defense, your constitution level. The 47.5 is my prayer level, which is 95 divided by 2. And then the summoning, the 49.5 is in relation to my summoning, which is divided by 2, which is obviously 99 divided by 2. And then you divide all of that by 4, and yes, as you can see, it gets my combat level to level 138. So pre-OC I used to use the RuneScape Typic combat calculator to figure this out. However, for this obviously purposes, I've researched into the exact formula to use, so now you guys know it. And from this formula on screen, which you've seen, just pause the video and you can probably or definitely figure out what combat level you would be once the level 138 combat system is put into play. Now on to combat level 200. Now this is probably going to take about 10 seconds to calculate. It is the highest offensive skill level plus your defense level plus 2. Example, I can choose a few, so let's say 99 attack plus 99 defense plus 2 equals 200. This just doesn't quite seem like a similar achievement, does it? Or a true representative of a combat efficient player. I think they need to find a way to balance magic and range within the 138 formula, and this would probably please everybody. Of course, I'm fine keeping it as it was because as a veteran player, I'm used to it. And pre-OC, I was a combat level 132 and dreamt to achieve that 138 status. Okay, so let's have a debate and discussion around 138 combat over level 200 combat and the formula and calculation system behind it. So level 138 combat takes into consideration a variety of combat related skills, which makes it a harder yet more rewarding goal to accomplish. For example, Let's consider Combat 200, where it only takes into consideration 2 combat skills, and you compare 138 against that, which obviously takes into account a lot more combat skills. Then it just makes it more rewarding, it makes it more worthwhile to go for, and when you get that accomplishment of 138 and people look at you, they're thinking, damn, yeah, he's a good player, he's spent a lot of hours training up those combat skills, and he's obviously quite knowledgeable around them. Skillers, those who train all non-combat skills, well, they're concerned about not being combat level 3 anymore due to their summoning and constitution levels, and also being reimbursed for their spends. That's also a worry, which is highly unlikely due to the impact this would have on the economy. Also, considering Jagex are constantly finding ways to create money sinks. I'm not going to focus on the topic of skillers too much because this video is from the perspective of people who use combat in the game, whether it's PvM or PvP. What I will say, however, is that I do understand their worries, and I really do hope it doesn't negatively impact them too much. It looks like Jagex will be giving the option to reset specific combat skills targeted at this playstyle, so fair enough guys, hopefully you guys won't be negatively impacted too much. So moving on, the combat level 200 system does have one good thing to offer players, which is a very close true representation on damage output between range, melee and mage. So for example, a person with 99 magic and 99 defense will be combat level 200. Comparing this to somebody with 99 range and 99 defense who also has combat level 200. Now technically if range was balanced with magic in terms of DPS, so damage per second, when using ascensions versus seismic, then this is a positive attribute of the level 200 combat system. However, you can counteract this statement by simply saying magic or range and melee is not balanced anyway. If you watch my video, Is Seismic Wand Overpowered, you will better understand this point of view. To add to this opinion, the combat level 200 only shows a person is efficient at PvMing with potentially one combat style. The 138 combat level indicates that player is much more useful and efficient at killing a wider range of bosses, solo and even tribrid, and also taking on a wider range of roles within a team, making the level 200 combat formula inferior to level 138 in my opinion. I've seen a few people arguing for combat level 200, however the points raised are just not strong enough in my opinion to keep it over the old 138 combat formula. Feel free however to comment the pros of the combat level 200 formula in the comment section and share your thoughts, and I reiterate, no rage comments against anybody please, everybody has their personal opinion. I definitely encourage though to counteract each other's opinions, and those most constructive will be featured on my next Future of RuneScape video addressing a new Dragonstone poll. Okay guys, so on to the second part of this video, the part which I look forward to the most in this Future of RuneScape series, where I review your comments from the previous Future of RuneScape video, which in this case was the Legacy Combat Mode. Now like I said at the start of this video, I want to focus a bit more on this topic and really review your comments in full, because I literally read all of them. There are a total of 98 comments guys on that video. I mean, that's huge, so a big shout out to everybody for commenting or who commented on that video. It's much appreciated. We've stirred up plenty of heated discussions and debates, and I'm going to conceptualize just a couple of them. I literally had to get a couple of you to conceptualize your arguments because you were that passionate about it. You wrote like an essay, so that was just so good to see, and I did read them all the way through and replied to you, and we had a discussion around it. You know who you are, and it was just a great feeling to read through those comments and to get that engagement level. So I'm going to go into those, and literally there was so many I can only pick like 3 or 4 to go through, because otherwise, you know, I would end up reading out an essay and making a 20-minute long video, an hour-long video on just the comments. So I'm going to pick out 3 or 4 which really got through to me, and we had a discussion further. So I'll try and conceptualize those as best as I can. So let's begin, shall we? So essentially, what I will strongly advise you to do is go into this video, try and find this comment by Major Lane and just read through the entire essay and message which he's saying. Obviously the 161 lines, maybe that is too much, but definitely read through this section here where he tries to conceptualize what basically his argument is. So I'll try and do the same right now. So basically, together and collaboratively, we came up with the idea that the ideal environment for the continued growth of RuneScape is an environment where PvP, PvM and skillers can coexist. Now he came up with a few ideas of how you could improve the game mechanics to basically work in favor of PvP a bit more, so PKers. Now, a couple of those suggestions he made were already on the beta, such as cooldown time is being removed, and also basically a momentum ability where auto attacks are increased in damage, so little things like that, and also the special attacks being brought back to the game. Now, all of those are obviously coming back to the EOC version, maybe making EOC PKing a bit more energetic, a bit more lively and active. However, to be honest, if legacy mode is going to come out, then all PvPers are going to do is use legacy mode, to be honest. That I can see that happening, but basically he does come up with a couple of things, a couple of ideas which could improve PvP in the game. Now, he basically makes a point that if these changes to PvP happen, so if legacy mode does come out, the reason why I'm linking it to PvP is because majorly that is what it links to. Obviously, I think it'll be really handy to get involved with Slayer with legacy mode, but to be honest, again, I'll probably use Revolution, which is coming out, where your basic abilities are automatically generated and activated, and then every so often you just hit a threshold. But I'll be making a video of that soon when I'm doing some slaying in the future. But basically, get back to this topic. He thinks the PvP or legacy mode should be across basically in the same server as EOC, so not split servers, and I agree with that. Mainly because, again, you're just dividing the community. Yes, the Grand Exchange will be connected across both platforms within RS3, but to be honest, it needs to be on the same server, otherwise you're just going to divide the community further between PvPers and PVMers, and at the end of the day, I think we need to find out a way to coexist those two types of communities into one. The next point it covers is about adding incentives to risking wealth in the wilderness, so be it new NPCs, drops, better XP rates, resource locations, maybe even looting bags, and risk wealth skulls. So as you know, obviously in the wilderness now, basically, you know, everybody gets a skull instantly. You can only keep one item upon death, and I think it was better where you could keep up to 3 items, because you'd get a more variety of PKing and more variety of PvP, because obviously you could use more weapons, different types of weapons, etc. So definitely a good point there to bring out. Now, this is one point which really made me think about, okay, should I actually vote on this or not? Now, obviously, legacy mode was going to pass through, you know, it was open up to free-to-players. Again, not sure whether I agree to that, but it was open up to free-to-players, so the old players, you know, could come back and vote for it, which obviously meant that, you know, it's probably going to go through. So basically, this made me think maybe I should just vote yes, because Major Lane makes a good point of basically referring to the dev block, which was written on the legacy mode, and basically he thinks with great faith that Jagex will not undermine their dedicated PVM community that has taken the time to learn the abilities. So with that, we both agree that, to be honest, why not vote for legacy mode for the benefit of the PvPers and the older players who just absolutely can't stand EOC. Now, that's what I mean. I don't want to be selfish, and I didn't really want to be selfish and vote no for the pure reason that, well, in the benefit of the entire community. And like I said, I really want there to be a possibility where PvPers, PVMers and skillers can all coexist into one world again, you know, like it did a few months ago, or like probably a couple of years ago. So I really hope basically that by voting, by legacy mode, you know, being voted through, and by us being able to maybe, you know, determine what legacy mode is actually going to look like through the diamond and ruby polls in the future, I hope it actually will benefit all of us. But yeah, in the meantime, you know, definitely go and check out that video comment section where Major Lane really does go into great depth, and, you know, have a discussion with him. He does reply to his comments proactively, and he has a few good ideas there, so I definitely recommend to go and check those out. I tried my best to conceptualize a few, but like I said, there was absolutely loads, and I want to now cover off a few other comments. Okay, so on to another comment from Actique RS. Now, he was debating about the XP rates, and he is completely against the legacy mode being introduced, pretty much purely for the reason that he said it would be, the XP rates would be almost as close to the EOC rates, as close as possible. And, you know, that's quite a broad explanation by Jagex. It's quite debatable, it's quite politically worded as well, I think, because as close to, what does that actually mean? What is the definition of that? We have no idea, and whether they'll leave that up to us in the diamond and ruby polls, you know, in terms of XP rates, how close does the community want it to go to? I highly disagree that should happen, because otherwise you get loads of people who voted yes for legacy to say yes, make it the same XP rates, and then it would get passed through, which is just ridiculous. And I do agree with Actique RS's strong opinion where, you know, the amount of effort which you have to put in, you know, spamming the abilities, etc. You know, I would do Revolution for grinding out any combat skills nowadays, and Slayer or whatever. But in terms of that effort you put in to get the XP rates, and also using the EOC mechanics to drop items when you're skilling, etc., and utilize it that way, you're putting in a bit more effort. It's a bit of a different method, and that's why you get more XP from it. And it's always been like that on the game. The less AFKable things are, so in terms of normal skills, so not even combat related, the more XP you get per hour. Just want to give shout outs about all the people who are really concerned about the community. I feel like it's really good, you know, a really good buzzing feeling in the comment section, which I absolutely love. I love that you guys, the people who are really passionate about the community, those are the people I'm attracting here, which is absolutely fantastic. So just want to give some shout outs now to a couple of names. Armadillo Guides basically agrees with me that it may devalue the EOC, definitely in terms of the PVM side, but at the same time PvP would be more valued. Now obviously if you keep watching the screen, I'll pop up different messages. I can't comment on all of them. Lord Blue Asian, fantastic guy. It seems that, you know, he's commented on a lot of other people's comments as well. Go and check out the comment section, look out for his name. He makes some very, very valid points. So Lord Blue Asian basically emphasizes that PvP is broken in RS3. It's broke. Mod Pi or Mod P, I don't know how you pronounce it. He's obviously trying to revitalize that, but it's broken. And essentially, Lord Blue Asian argues that Legacy Mode will revitalize that PvP aspect of RS3. It won't ever be like it used to be, but it may revitalize that PvP aspect of the game. And also, when you read through his comments, it sounds like he knows his stuff. You know, he talks about different methods of PvPing. So obviously, using Deadshot is good for PvP when your opponent's just use freedom, and a lot of little things like that. So he's obviously very knowledgeable, and yet he still agrees that it still is broken. So that's from a very strong opinion, who is very passionate about PvP, who has adopted PvP in the EOC and still thinks and prefers that Legacy Mode will revitalize PvP. So strong opinion, man, and you know, I will follow you with that opinion. The next comment comes from XX9, who basically suggests that the two communities probably will just collide together and it won't work out. That's a strong opinion, but still opinion in itself. Now on to the next comment from Bryce Johnson, who basically is just a very powerful comment which got through to me as well, about how he's starting to lose ambition for the game and the trust in Jagex. And that's quite a big one. The word trust in Jagex is quite a very strong, powerful word, which I'll go into. You know, they say it's not going to affect 07 players. It will. They say it's not going to affect the current state of the game. It will. You know, it will affect it. It's inevitable. And now I'm going to get a bit deeper as well into some thoughts around what I think in terms of trust. Essentially, guys, we're putting our faith into Jagex, and that's why, you know, I could have voted no, and essentially, you know, obviously that's not going to make a difference, but if I had ever had that influence where many others would vote no, then yes, I could have done that, and I would have gained support from obviously a lot of people who are really enjoying EOC and the PVM aspect of it, and even some people who have actually adopted to the PvP aspect of the EOC, especially with these new beta access special abilities, cooldown switching removed, all that now being introduced into the game, and also Revolution, you know, coming out, which I think is really amazing. Or I've not really tried it out yet personally, but I will be trying it out with the new series which I'm going to be making. So yeah, that's a bit of a spoiler there. But yeah, basically, on to another comment from Jad Sandy. Basically has a similar opinion to me as well, in terms of he voted yes because he thought it would satisfy a lot of people, bring back all the players. But he also talks about how we both sort of agree that Jagex are contradicting themselves, that, you know, they're bringing out all of this new content for EOC, and it sort of makes it redundant when they're bringing out Legacy Mode, where most of PvPers will switch over to that rather than using all of these new special attacks which are coming into play, and also the cooldown switching and all that. They're trying to improve EOC PvP. Personally, again, I think it might just be a ploy, this Legacy combat, to ease people into using the EOC. And you know what, I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing either. To be honest, they probably should have done this in the first place, and that's probably what they're realizing. Instead of just literally cutting off the old world of RuneScape and then just transitioning it directly to a new one, instead they should have phased it through and had EOC out there as well as, let's say, Legacy or pre-EOC at the same time, and allowing you to switch between them, allowing you to play the actively game rather than the beta, and then slowly get used to the EOC. And then essentially just phasing it out in little bits. So then essentially you have an RS3 1.2, 1.4, 1.6, whatever. They didn't even need to put the points in, but essentially they should have phased it in and phased the old pre-EOC out slowly, allowing people to adapt to it, allowing people to realize, you know, it brings better things, brings better XP rates, and then if possible they had that choice to keep the Legacy or the pre-EOC mode in for the PvPers, etc., or for Slayer, etc., grinding out bosses. we're placing our trust into Jagex. And personally, I don't know how you feel, but as a player, the amount of changes which are going on, you know, it does start making you lose trust within Jagex as a company, and as developers. It does as a user and a player, on the other side of it as a customer, it makes you lose trust in that brand, in that company. And I'm just hoping that, you know, I'm a person that no matter what they do, I probably will always carry on supporting them, and, you know, because I love the company, right? And I love the game. But, you know, there's always that bit of you which is like, okay, I'm starting to lose a bit of trust into you guys now. You know, there's just too many things going wrong. You know, too many things being just out of nowhere, out of the blue. So now basically, the other side of it is vote yes, because essentially the benefits and the pros do seem to outweigh the others. If we're trusting the dev blog and what they're saying, that it will not affect how the game is currently going and the way it's sort of moving forward, so with the EOC, and how the game is in terms of PVM. If we fully believe that and trust that, then definitely vote yes, essentially, because at the end of the day, like I did vote yes, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't affect it and we trust that it's not going to affect PVM and the current state of the game, then instead it will actually make it better, because you're getting all the older players coming, the community increasing, the amount of players increasing, the more social aspect of the game, and, you know, also, you know, making it fair for everybody, you know, and reaching out to a mass audience rather than a niche set of players. So that's why I voted yes, essentially, and I hope you guys can respect that. So yeah, I just want to leave it there, guys, for now. And you know, there's so many comments. What I want to say is a big thanks to everybody who did comment on that last video. You know, the comments are that deep, and that there's that much you can explore with each comment that it's just almost impossible to fit more than 3 or 5 on my videos. But rest assured, you know, as you know, I've replied to pretty much every single one of those comments, you know, on that video. So you're still engaging with me. We're still having a conversation and a debate around it, even if it doesn't feature in the video. So please keep commenting. You know, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Obviously, this video is more of a simpler choice between 138 and 200 combat, and it's not as much to explore. But still, feel free to you know, write about why you think the formula needs changing, if you feel it does, or why you think it should stay the same. Write in the comment section below, and I'll definitely read all of those and reply to them. And then again, the most constructive will be featured in my next Future of RuneScape video. Thank you for watching, everybody. Take care and have a great week.